Hi friends, welcome back to How This Mom Does It. Today I am going to be talking about how we do our family budget. Budgets are a question that I've been asked several times about, and this is pretty much how we've been doing it for the last several years. I actually looked back in our budget spreadsheet because I keep all of the tabs, and they went all the way back to 2011. So we can actually go back and see where we were many years ago and how far we've come, and forecast to where we're going in the future. So I thought I would share how we budget. This is a breakdown that I use on an Excel spreadsheet, and it's all calculated for me. All I have to do is enter in the numbers. Makes it really easy and simple and quick. We do 2 checks because my husband is paid bi-weekly, but you could use it monthly or weekly and just add extra sections or take them out depending on how your income is. I have it set up to where you can even do 2 incomes if you needed to in the combined income setting, and it calculates everything for you, which is pretty nice. It has a section for when things are due, so you can make sure that everything is being paid on time, and you can track where your money is being spent, because I think a lot of people nowadays just spend money and pay the bills and don't really realize where their money is going. So this helps us to keep track of where our money is going, what we're saving, and where we could cut back, where we think we could spend more, and that type of thing. So if you look at the top, it's broken down. Like I said, we do it 2 checks. So we have the combined net income, any extra income that might come in, like a yard sale or I don't know, anything extra. I have it down for 2 incomes. So I just kind of made up some numbers. So say for instance, let's see, I'm trying to click and do it at the same time here. Say for instance, your spouse brings in a net of $2,000 and you bring in a net of $1,000 to combine together, you would have a net of $3,000 net income for that check. And then say for instance you have 2 children in child care, and you pay $300 per child, $600 per child per month. You would break it down per 2-week period, so $600 per every 2-week check for both of your children. If you had student loans, how much that would be, electric company, water company, gas, internet or cable if you have it, home phone if you have one, cell phone, things like Netflix, other internet subscriptions like Google Music, any monthly fees or activities that you do for your children, or you if you go to the gym or your child takes classes, anything like that. Fuel for all of your vehicles, groceries including your household items, if you have a security system, if you have prescriptions. I always forecast and budget at least 1 doctor copay for every 2-week period. We have little kids and usually we use them, but if we don't, then that just goes into extra money to be saved. That's great, but at least we have it planned. Any medical bills that we have come up, and the amount we plan to save. Anything also extra like car insurance, pest service, anything that's paid quarterly, we break it down because those usually paid every 3 months depending, and we calculate it out after adding them all together, divided by 3, and that's how much we're saving per month for all those items. So that way we're always saving and nothing is unexpected. And then also anything extra, because there's always extras, trips, gifts, donations, anything that comes up that maybe you were planning but it isn't something that would happen every month. So that would be an example of what 1 check could look like, and these are some estimates of what things could cost. And then at the end you can see total bills, $27.30 Again, these are just estimates, numbers I threw out there. And if you were bringing home a combined income of $3,000, you would have left over $270 for that 2-week period to spend on whatever you want because you already have savings included. So that could be eating out or entertainment or whatever extra you have that you need. And then an example of a second check would be very similar. Usually I try and break up bills so that what you have left over at the end is fairly equal. So if we have 270 at the end of one check, then at the end of a second check, I would try and make it as equal as possible. And I got this one to 215, so not too far off. But say again that you had a combined net income of $3,000 for that pay period, which would be if your spouse brought home $2,000 and you brought home $1,000, your net income would be $3,000. And then, of course, if you had any extra income, you could add that in. Childcare for the 2-week period. I separate mortgage rent because usually that's a bigger amount, and I usually pay that on a separate check as opposed to all the other bills. It just makes it easier, I've found, to budget because it's usually a bigger number. So say, for instance, your mortgage or rent was around $1,200, and say you had lawn service, any internet subscriptions, fuel for both your cars because those are expenses that happen all throughout the month, groceries for that 2-week period, any prescriptions, medical bills, doctor copays. Again, I always have at least one copay down for whatever your copay might be. Any savings for this 2-week period, and this pay period I said we would save $100, for example, just to make it even, and any quarterly that we were going to save. And because we had more bills showing on this check, then I would say that it would be about $100 for quarterly. So we're saving a good amount for the quarterly expenses that come up, like your pest and car insurance and things like that. And then miscellaneous, I didn't have any miscellaneous. I didn't put any down on this one. But show our total bills that I had put together. And then at the end, after bills and savings, $215. So that's kind of just an example, some numbers I threw out there to show what it could look like for someone if you were doing your budget. Let's see, and if you scroll down here, if I scroll down, it says my total monthly savings is $400. So I allotted in the first check up here, I put $300, and then in the bottom second check I did $100. So total savings for the month could be $400. Now these are just numbers that I threw out there. It could change. These aren't really our numbers, but just some numbers to work with, and you can add in your numbers or change it around. I like having the due dates on the side. I find that's handy for us to check to make sure that everything is being paid on time. So we don't forget something. When we do pay a bill, I will highlight the number to make sure that so I know that it has been paid. And then once it clears our account, then I will delete the number in the actual budget. So that will actually go away, and then I will keep verifying the top amount of our income that's in our accounts and reconcile it with everything else. Makes it really, really easy. Now I do this section over here. That's my projected budget, and then this is the actual budget. So whatever ends up actually happening goes over here, but then I can see what we had tried to do. So that lets me look at everything and think how we could do better for next month. Now, in terms of the spreadsheet itself, every month has its own tab. So down here, you'll see July. I have done an August sample, of September sample, October, and they're all the same because it's just a sample, but it would be different if we use our actual numbers, and you would be able to see a difference. But just so you could just see how it works. And if you do it long enough, in our budget spreadsheet, it goes, like I said, all the way back to 2011. So it's a really long time to go back and look at how we've saved and what we've done, and how our budget has changed throughout the years, and how we can see what we can do better for the future. At the end of each year, I'll have the December, and then as we go into the next, I'll have a budget planning tab. And that is where we look at things that are going to be coming up for the next year. And I did a little sample of just things that could come up and what it could look like. So, for example, it says 2017 budget planning, year-end savings. So if we were going by the numbers that I put on this spreadsheet, just for playing with the numbers, I put down that we could save, I think it was $400 per month. And if you calculate what's left, so say we saved from July to December $400, we would have $2,400. And this is actually calculated in the formula, $400 times 6. Say for instance that we did our tax return and we got $1,000 back on a tax return. We could add that in as well, which would give a total beginning budget for 2017 of $3,400, and it automatically calculates that for me by adding the cells together. That's why I love Excel. That takes all the guesswork out of it and makes it really quick and simple. So say for instance we saved that money, and say for instance that we got a tax return back and that was our total, then it kind of gives us an idea of what our beginning budget is for the new year. And then from there we can look at and start discussing what our expenses for the next year could be. So just kind of giving some ideas out there of things that you could be looking at, like say a new dishwasher, or wanting to send one of your children to a summer camp, or say you're trying to budget for holiday Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, or a birthday party, or a trip, or a down payment on a new car, anything like that. I even just put item just to save a spot. So it could be anything. So say for instance, just throwing out some numbers, say we wanted to get a new dishwasher and we wanted to send someone to a camp, and we wanted to budget so much for gifts for the year, and maybe try and buy a new car. Adding all those things up, and again it automatically populates for me because Excel is great. It does all the math for me. Projected expenses of what we could be expecting for the year would be $4,400, and if you look at the top of what our beginning budget is, it was $3,400. So that leaves us negative $1,000. So that shows us what we need to be working on saving for the year. So if we were looking at these things as expected expenses for the year, then we would know that we need to try and save $1,000. And if we're staying on our budget of $400 savings per month, then in just a few months we could make that up and have that money saved. So that's kind of just an idea of how we use our spreadsheet for our monthly expenses as well as for planning. Again, these aren't real numbers, but it does show how we do it, and it's worked really well for us. We do a bi-weekly, we call it a status meeting, where we sit down and we go over our budget and where we are in our money, and what bills need to be paid, any expenses that are coming up that we hadn't already talked about. So we're always on the same page, and that's very helpful. I do recommend doing that. At least a monthly meeting, if not bi-weekly. And even if you are only paid once a month, I think meeting at least 2 times a month to go over the budget is a really good idea, because things change throughout the month. And having open communication about your finances with your spouse is really, really important. It definitely takes away all of the confusion and any kind of arguments. Everything basically is taken care of, so you don't have to stress about it. So that is how we do our monthly budget and some of our forecasting. I hope you found this helpful. If you like it, then click like and subscribe. Thanks so much.